Oh, I want to get to MSNBC's Morning Joe, Stu.
Why? No one wants to do that.
I mean, I probably at least, they've got to have at least 5 viewers. They've got family members who must watch their show. So maybe at least crew members, thank you. At least 5 people who watch their show. And look, I'm not doing it because I think what they're saying is true or important. Well, it is kind of important in the sense that, like, this is what the other side is saying about us, about Donald Trump. Because I do think it is important to hear what the other side is saying, because that matters, right? So I want to play just how broken these people are. Here's Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski trying to tell everyone that Donald Trump, if elected, is going to just like up and imprison his enemies when he gets elected and all sorts of stuff that, I don't know, sounds a little bit like what Joe Biden has been doing the last 3 years. Watch.
Have a responsibility to really tune out the voices of the haters, of the people that are constantly double and triple checking and shilling for him and suggesting that somehow they're being biased, bending over backwards, treating him like a normal candidate. He's not a normal candidate. He is running to end American democracy as we know it. He's an authoritarian who a court in Colorado 2 days ago ruled that he led an insurrection against the United States government. He's charged with leading schemes to help overthrow the United States government. So if they want to frame it that way, that's fine. If you want to be fair, then you will frame this as Joe Biden being the candidate that supports American democracy, and Donald Trump, a candidate who supports a new form of government here that's authoritarian. It's really that simple. And by the way, Reverend Al, when people go, you can't compare him to past Nazi leaders. You can't compare him to this past Nazi leader or that past fascist leader because he hasn't done that. Well, what hasn't he done? He hasn't done the things that the American judicial system did not allow him to do last time, but may very well allow him to do this time, or a judicial system that will be ignored by Donald Trump and ran over by Donald Trump to create the greatest constitutional crisis of our lifetimes. Just because he hasn't done it yet doesn't mean he won't do it when he gets a chance to do it. And if he is voted into office, then a lot of these people that are talking about literal or figurative or whatever the hell they're saying, you're going to look like idiots. Because he will get away with, he will imprison, he will execute whoever he's allowed to imprison, execute, drive from the country. Just look at his past. It's not really hard to read. The only thing that stood between him and the destruction of American democracy was the federal judiciary.
That is a great point. That is a tremendous point. Can't you recall when Donald Trump was president, all the people that he executed, or at least said he was going to execute, and then the judicial system stepped in and said, sorry, Mr. President, you can't execute them. And he was like, don't you remember all those times that happened?
No.
He imprisoned all those political enemies that he didn't like?
I don't remember any of that, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it's shocking to be told. But yes, no, I don't. I mean, if you want to go back in the past, you can go back, of course. I mean, there's so much in that clip. Honestly, you have to give me this for radio tomorrow because I'm doing radio with Pat Gray tomorrow. I must have this clip. It will be a full hour of the program.
For sure.
But first of all, the gall of this dope to complain about people treating Donald Trump as a normal candidate when all throughout 2015 and 16, he salivated on this guy and had him on the show every day to tell him how great he was.
Great point.
You go back in that time, that was all Joe Scarborough was doing for ratings, was constantly having his buddy on about how great he was and how he's this wonderful game changer in the Republican primary. If you wanted to get rid of him, you could have not done that. Of course, they loved him at the time. Now they don't like each other, so now he's going to act like he's Hitler. And he's trying to call him Hitler. First of all, what hasn't he done that Hitler did? Well, I don't know, kill 8 million Jews.
For starters.
That was like part one of that. That was kind of a big part of the, like, yeah, we did have problems with these corporate structure as it related to the Nazi government. We had problems with their propaganda rules. There's lots of stuff the Nazis did wrong, but it was all sort of secondary to the Jew killing. Right? Like, if does anyone...
I would say so.
And then he says the only thing that stopped him, he's like Hitler, the only thing that stopped him from killing all these people was when he was told he couldn't do it. Well, one of the defining characteristics of Hitler is he didn't care when he was told that he couldn't do it. That was what made Hitler Hitler.
That was also like why we got into a war.
Right. Like, if anyone remembers, he rolled over the entire government and started doing, he made speeches saying, I know this is against the Constitution, but it had to be done. That was the defining characteristic of the Hitler regime, right? Like it wasn't like he was like, well, you know, luckily the federal judiciary told me I could murder 8 million Jews in gas chambers. That's not how that story went. This is so stupid from beginning to end, and also exactly what you'd expect out of these two buffoons who have been on the air flailing around for a very long time. All they do is, you know, it's a show that's made for like 18 people in the Beltway, and they do this all the time. It's pathetic. You know, when Joe Scarborough tried to do a commercially viable product with his radio show, it failed over and over again.
I'm shocked to hear that.
I know. Famously said, not that he was getting fired, but that he was going to take a hiatus to re-understand the structure of the show. And to this day, they have never come back.
This was a really long hiatus.
It was a really long hiatus.
He's still trying to figure it out.
One of the things they said the hiatus was for, so they were going to try to figure out how to add an extra hour, which is always when you're getting fired what your employer wants. Please figure out how to add an additional hour. One way you do that is you just stay on the show for another hour, but they couldn't figure that out.
Figure it out.
Someday, though, in 2027, 2029, 2035, they will figure that out, Sarah, and we will get another edition of the Joe Scarborough radio failure.
If only we are so lucky.